Hey guys, thanks for watching. This video is going to quickly run through the various maps you have available for tuning depending on your ECU. For this case, we're using a 413 ECU out of an E36, and we're starting off with the idle fuel map. As you'll see across the top here, we've got load displayed in milliseconds, and on the left we have RPM displayed in real world RPM. This stuff here in white, which I have now highlighted in green, is the actual map data. So these are the values that the map uses, and these are the axes, load and RPM, of the idle fuel map. Moving on to part throttle fuel, Vanos horsepower. Vanos horsepower and torque is something I'll get to a little bit later. Again, we have milliseconds across the top, RPM down the side. Part throttle fuel, Vanos torque, again, load in milliseconds across the top, RPM down the side. It's the same for ignition, load across the top, RPM down the side. The only thing that doesn't have load is wide open throttle fuel. It is fixed fueling per RPM, but if you go look at the wide open throttle ignition stuff, it is load variable. So again, you have load across the top and RPM down the side. Now the reason why we label things Vanos horsepower and Vanos torque, if we go into the control tab here for Vanos, is simply just so people understand what it's doing. Vanos off is essentially Vanos in home position or zero advance. Vanos torque is the Vanos engaged and the cam is advanced. And the reason why we call it horsepower and torque is so people understand what the Vanos is affecting mainly. So right now we're sitting in the Vanos control map, or the control section I should say, and you have the option to turn Vanos off so it will never advance. You have the option to turn Vanos on so that it's always advanced, and then you can set your trigger points. So Vanos, when it's set to operate normally, will come on and then turn off at 5300 RPM stock. You can turn that off switch point up higher or lower depending on the way you're tuning, and we'll have a separate video for tuning the horsepower and torque maps, as we call them, and that'll give you a better understanding of how to use these values in here. Moving along to the oxygen sensor control, basically you can turn it on or off in here, pretty straightforward. Idle speed is based on temperature. We've got the different target idle speeds along the values here. Rev limit is speed based, so these values above the RPM limit are actual speed values, and when you use launch control to turn it on or off, it actually changes the lower values so that when you're not moving you can have a reduced RPM limit. Again, here's the launch control button, deactivate or activate, pretty straightforward. So that sums up the 413 ECU. Obviously it's the most complex out of the ones we have available for the war chip. If you have any questions, please read the manual. It's always a good idea. Check out the other videos on our website, and if you still can't find what you're looking for, give us a call or shoot us an email. Again, thanks for watching. Happy tuning.